Okay, we're going to go ahead and start back up. So now that you've had time to go through, read the script, view the footage, we're going to start to put together our simple sequence here. So feel free to kind of do your own thing as you put this together, but I'm going to start out very basic. I'm going to start with scene 20, take 2. Scene 20, take 2. And really, I'm just going to start to mark this after we hear action. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to mark a clip, how to use the part of the clip that you want in your sequence. So the first thing I would do, and this part is completely optional, is I'm going to make sure that my overlays are on my screen. And I'll show you what overlays are in a second. But here's how we turn them on. In the bottom right corner of your source monitor is a little menu that looks like a wrench. I'm going to click on that, and down at the bottom there's an option called Overlays. Okay, make sure that is checked. Make sure that is checked. Okay, then I just want you to take a look at this. Grab your playhead and drag it all the way to the left, all the way to the beginning of the clip. And when your overlays are turned on, you're going to see this little zebra striping over here on the left side of the screen. And that's basically telling you this is the first frame of the clip. You cannot go any earlier than this. Okay, now I'm going to grab my playhead. I'm going to drag it all the way to the end of the clip. And when you're at the end of the clip, you're going to see this zebra striping over here to let you know that you're at the tail of the clip. You're at the tail of the clip, the end of the clip. You cannot go any later than this frame. Sometimes if you go even further, you'll get a purple bar, but that's still on the same frame. Once again, letting you know that you're at the tail of the clip. You cannot, there's no more clip beyond this. So that's one of the things that you're going to see when your overlays are turned on. Okay, now I'm going to drag my playhead to the beginning of the clip. I'm going to play it and I'm going to listen for action.
Here we go, and action.
Okay, right there. Right after she says action, I'm going to stop playback. Okay, so once again, I was using J, K, and L, but you might also just drag your playhead back, hit the play button here.
Here we go, and action.
And as soon as you hit action, you're going to stop playback. Okay, so this is where I want to start using the clip. So I'm going to mark an endpoint. I'm going to mark what we call an endpoint. So right here is the mark in button. You can also hit I on your keyboard. I is the keyboard shortcut for in, or mark in. Okay, so I hit the mark in button, and a couple things happen. First of all, where my playhead is, there's now a mark in, and we'll see that the area to the right of it is highlighted now. Basically saying this is the part of the clip that I'm using, this highlighted portion. And if you have your overlays turned on, you're going to see this little L looking symbol, this little yellow L looking symbol in the bottom left corner of the screen, letting you know that you've marked an endpoint on that frame of video. This is where we're going to start using this clip that we're going to be putting into our edit. Okay, so I'm going to play it. I'm going to hit I to mark it in.
Lunch break. Just a minute. No, now.
Okay, so I'm going to stop her right there. So I want to end this clip right after she says no, now. Okay, so I might drag my playhead back and play it again.
Lunch break. Just a minute. No, now.
And then stop her right there. And then if I want to precisely mark my in and out points, which is what we're going to do in this lesson. Later on in other lessons, I'll show you how you can be a little bit more loose with your edit and then trim it down later on. But for this class, we're going to be very precise when we mark our in and out points. So once I get it close, I might use my step back 1 frame, step forward 1 frame buttons to precisely set my in and out points. I could also use my left and right arrows to do this. Okay, so I'm just using my left and right arrows. And I'm going to say right here is where I want to stop using the clip. So I'm going to mark an out. So right here's my mark out button. O is the keyboard shortcut. And when I click it, I now have a mark out at my playhead location. The area between the in and out points is highlighted. And if my overlays are turned on, I'm going to see this backwards yellow L right here in the bottom right corner. And once again, we turn our overlays on by clicking this little wrench menu right here. This is called the settings menu for our source monitor, and making sure that overlays is checked. Okay, now I would like to preview the area that I marked in this clip. I want to play from in to out here. Okay, well, if you're not sure what a button does under your source monitor, you can just rest your mouse over the button and a tooltip will pop up that tells you what that button does and what the keyboard shortcut is. Okay, so here I have add marker, we have mark in, mark out, go to in. Over here we have go to out. Okay, here we've got our play, stop, toggle, step back 1 frame, step forward 1 frame. Then we have other functions like insert, overwrite, export frame, toggle proxies. Okay, none of these are the buttons that we want. Okay, but this is a good way to kind of learn what your buttons do and what the keyboard shortcuts are. Okay, but these don't give me what I want. I want to play my video from the in to the out. Well, we can add buttons to our button bar here underneath the source monitor. In the very bottom right corner of the source monitor, there's a little plus symbol. This is the button editor. And when we click it, it opens up a panel that gives me buttons that I can add to my button bar. And once again, if you're not sure what these buttons do, just rest your mouse over them. A tooltip will pop up, tells you what that button does. Okay, so we're looking for this button right here in the upper right of this panel, play video in to out. I can click and I can drag that, and I can either add it to this first row of buttons, or I can even start a second row of buttons. So I'm going to drop it just underneath the play button. I click OK, and now when I click this new button, play video in to out, it's just going to play the marked portion of that clip.
Lunch break. Just a minute. No, now.
Okay, so that's how we can add buttons to the interface. Once again, bottom right corner, button editor, click it, find the button you want, and simply drag it down here to your button bars. If you want to get rid of a button, you can open this up and simply drag it out or click Reset Layout. That'll put everything back in its default location. Okay, so I'm just going to click OK. I'm going to leave it like it is. I'm going to play that one more time.
Lunch break. Just a minute. No, now.
Okay, now I'm going to create my sequence. I'm going to start my edit. So let's do this. I'm going to go over to my project panel. I'm going to click on that. And I'm just going to close these bins here. I'm just going to click the little disclosure arrows next to my bins. And I actually, I'm missing a bin that I created earlier. I created a sequences bin, but I quit out. I must have quit out of my project before saving it. So I'm going to create a new bin here for my sequences. So once again, I can click the new bin button, or I can right click, new bin. I'm going to call it sequences, but I'm going to put an underscore in front of the name. And then to create a sequence, we're going to do this the easiest way possible. Okay, once again, just like everything else, there are usually 3 or 4 different ways to do something in these programs. Okay, but if you look in the middle of your timeline, look right here, it says drop media here to create sequence. Okay, so what I can do, what that means is I can go up here to my source monitor, click in the middle of my source monitor, drag down to the timeline window, and release the mouse. And that will create a brand new sequence based on the clip that you just dropped into it. Okay, so if we look over here, I now have a new item in my project. And it's named after the first clip that I dropped into it. Okay, so I'm using Scene 20 Take 2. And this new sequence that I created is called Scene 20 Take 2. But aside from that, it also has the same frame size and frame rate as the clip that I dropped into it. And it has the audio channels that that clip had. Okay, now you want to do two things at this point. First of all, you want to rename the sequence. Okay, so I'm going to go over here to my new sequence. And by the way we know it's a sequence is first of all the icon to the left of the name. That is a sequence icon. It's supposed to look like a couple of video tracks and an audio track with a playhead going down through the middle. But also if you rest your mouse over it, a tooltip will pop up that says sequence, 1920 by 1080, 24 frames per second, so on. Okay, so we're going to rename this. So to rename this, I'm going to simply click once on the name, and it's going to highlight. And we're just going to call this Scene 20 version 1. Scene 20 version 1. Then I'm going to click on the icon to the left of the name, and I'm going to drag it to my sequences bin. I'm going to drop it in there just so I can keep my project nice, neat, and organized. Now, anytime you find yourself pausing, it's a good idea to save your work. Okay, so there is an autosave for Premiere Pro. We'll talk about that in other lessons, but it goes off every so many minutes. But it's a good idea to get in the habit of saving your own work. So we can either go up to File, Save, keyboard shortcut Command S. And that'll just save our work. Okay, so if I look at my timeline right now, it has just one clip in it. And if I go over to my program monitor, in fact, let me go over here and reset my button bar here. I have some buttons left over from another class that I was teaching, so I just want to kind of reset this. So I've got the same transport controls over here that coincide with my sequence that's open in the timeline. So if I play this.
Lunch break. Just a minute. No, now.
Okay, this is the editing that I'm doing. Okay, so I've kind of started my scene here with this kind of wider two shot.
Lunch break. Just a minute. No, now.
Okay, now's where the creativity comes in. Now I'm going to need to think about what do I want to do next? Well, I know the next line is this character right here. Okay, her name is Rory. Okay, and then we've got this character here. Her name's Tristan. Okay, so once again, I've studied my script. I know what the next line is. I know I want to cut to her. So I'm going to go back down to my project panel group. I'm going to click on the Scene 20 Clips tab. I'm just going to scroll down. And I've got a couple of kind of medium shots of Rory here. Okay, so I'd play them and I'd kind of think of, which performance is better? Which one do I like better? Okay, so I'm just going to start with 20A, take 1. Kind of drag it back somewhere near the beginning. I don't have to go all the way back. But I'm just going to play it, and I'm going to look for her next line.
When I lean over, I'll lean like.
Here we go, ready, and action.
Lunch break. Just a minute. No, now. Okay. What is this? Green tea. I wanted a Coke. Soda is bad for you, and you've been looking a little puffy lately.
Okay, so then I'm just going to load the next clip in. 28, take 2. Drag my play back and kind of play that section again.
Lunch break. Just a minute. No. Now. Okay. What is this?
Okay, so I like this one a little bit better. So I'm going to find it right after she says no, now.
Just a minute. No. Now.
So maybe right about there. Now, once again, if you want to review, since we are cutting this very precisely, you might go back down to your timeline, drag your play in here, and kind of think about where it ends.
Lunch break. Just a minute. No. Now.
Okay, and if we just hit our left arrow and go back. Okay, so we're kind of got the same thing going here. Oh, notice her hand isn't quite in the same place here as it is here. Now, I don't think the audience would notice that. So I'm going to live with it. I'm going to live with it. You know, maybe if it was really bothering me, maybe I go back to 28 take 1 and take a look.
Lunch break. Just a minute. No. Now.
Okay, so here's where the art comes in. You know, her hand is not up here. Okay, that action is not going to match. But I don't think the audience would notice. And also, we really care. Continuity is kind of somewhere down the line as far as what's important. Okay, if it's something that's going to be super obvious, you know, you do it. But in this case, I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to go with take 2. It doesn't matter. She doesn't have her hand up in either of these anyway. So I'm just going to find...
Lunch break. Just a minute. No. Now.
We'll say right about there. Okay, so I'm going to mark it in. L to play forward.
Okay. What is this? Green tea.
Okay, so I'm going to stop it right after she says, what is this? So I'm going to go back by hitting the J key.
Says it. No.
K to pause it, L to go forward.
What is this?
And I'm just going to stop it right around there. And I'm going to hit O to mark and out. I'm going to hit O to mark and out. And then once again, I want to play just this area that I marked. So I'm going to hit play video into out.
Okay. What is this?
And I want to take this clip and I want to put it right after this one in the timeline. So once again, several different ways we can do this. We're going to do our first few edits by just doing drag and drop editing, what we call drag and drop editing. I'm going to click in the middle of my source monitor. I'm going to drag down to the timeline. And as I drag it down, I'm going to drag all these clips down until my mouse is over the video 1 track. And then I'm going to drag it over to the left until I see it snap like a magnet to the end of that other clip. And then release the mouse. And I've edited that clip into the timeline. Okay, now I'm going to preview the edit. Up here at the top of your timeline, we've got this ruler area. And if you want to drag your play it around in the timeline, you want to either click on the ruler area, or you can put your mouse over the playhead in the empty space above your tracks to where you see this double-headed arrow and drag it that way. So I'm just going to drag this all the way back to the beginning of the sequence, and I'm just going to play it. I'm going to watch my edit up here in the program monitor.
Lunch break. Just a minute. No. Now. Okay. What is this?
Okay, so there's my first edit. Is it perfect? Not exactly, but it kind of gets us into the scene. Now, really quick here. All the same keyboard shortcuts I used to play the clip up here in the source monitor will work for our timeline. Okay, so with my timeline active, if I want to go to the beginning of my sequence, I can hit the home key. If I want to go to the end of the sequence, I can hit the end key. But I can also use my up and down arrows to jump from edit point to edit point. in the timeline, up and down arrows to jump from edit point to edit point in the timeline. I can once again hit the space bar to play it.
Lunch break.
Space bar to pause it. I can use my J, K, and L keys. L to play forward.
No.
The more I hit L, the faster it goes. K pauses it. J plays backwards. The more I hit J, the faster it plays backwards. Okay, so once again, I'm going to play this.
Lunch break. Just a minute. No, now.
Okay. What is this?
Okay, so now we need to cut to the other character. We want to cut to Tristan saying green tea. So I go over to my project panel. I'm going to scroll down. And, as I go through this, I'm noticing, some of these shots, the thumbnail over here is obstructed by the slate. And the whole point of icon view or thumbnail view, whatever you want to call it, is that we can quickly look at these pictures and get an idea of what's going on in the shot. Well, in Premiere Pro, you can actually change that thumbnail by doing this. With hover scrub on. And once again, if we go up to the bin tab menu, this little 3-line menu here on the right side of the tab, we want to make sure hover scrub is on. Run your mouse over the clip until you have a shot that better represents what's going on in the clip. And then you can right-click Set Poster Frame. Right-click Set Poster Frame. And that will change the poster frame of that clip. Okay, so I would probably take a few minutes here and go through, right-click Set Poster Frame. Hover scrub, right-click, Set Poster Frame. And I would do that on a lot of these shots. Okay, I'm not going to do it on all of them right now. I might, during the break or something, I'll go do that. But really, I just want to show you that now we're going to go down to the 20C. There's a take 1 and a take 2 of Tristan's medium shot. Okay, so once again, she's just saying green tea here. Usually I would look at both of them and figure out which one I'm going to use. I'm just going to go straight for take 2. Drag my play kind of to the beginning here, and I'm going to find her, green tea.
Lunch break. Just a minute. No, now.
Okay. What is this?
Green tea.
Okay, right there. So I'm going to mark that. So I'm going to hit J to go backwards, K to pause it, L to go forward.
What is this?
And then K to pause it. And then once I get it close, I'm going to use my left and right arrows. And maybe get it right before she, obviously before she says green tea, but after she says, what's this? And I'm going to mark an in point. I'm going to hit I to mark an in, L to play forward.
Green tea.
I'm going to stop it right there. O to mark an out. O to mark an out. Okay, once again, if I want to play just the area that I marked, I'm going to hit play video in to out.
Green tea.
And then I'm just going to drag and drop this at the end of my sequence. So I'm going to click in the middle of my source monitor, drag down to the timeline, snap it to the end of this other clip. Once again, as you drag it, it'll get close to this other clip and then it'll snap like a magnet and release the mouse. Now at this point, if you make a mistake, if you let go of a clip and it goes to the wrong place, for this class, just hit Command Z, Control Z on a Windows system to undo it. Or if you drag and drop a clip in the wrong place, another way to get rid of it is to simply select the clip and hit delete on your keyboard. Okay, so once again, we're keeping things simple. Just a simple drag and drop or click and delete, Command Z. We're not going to worry about trimming, stuff like that right now. Okay, if you make a mistake, simply undo or delete it. Okay, so once again, I'm going to click in the middle of my source monitor, drag down to the timeline. I'm just going to drag it until I see it snap like a magnet to the end of this other clip. And then I'm just going to grab my play and I'm going to drag it back and play it.
Lunch break.
Just a minute.
No, now.
Okay. What is this?
Green tea.
Okay, so now here it's just going to be a back and forth between some of these clips. Okay, so I'm going to go back over to my Scene 20 clips. I'm going to scroll up. I'm going to go back to Rory's medium shot, 28 take 2. And you'll notice that my in and out points are still here from the previous edit. Okay, now that's okay. This is kind of the way we want it. Now they will stay there until I either clear them myself or until I mark new in and out points. Okay, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to simply mark new in and out points. So I'm going to drag my play back and I'm going to play it, and I'm going to stop it right after I hear Tristan say green tea.
Okay. What is this?
Green tea.
Okay, right there. So I could hear that Rory here starts to talk, so it's the dialogue is really tight here. So I'm just going to use my left arrow to go back a couple frames, and then I'm going to hit I to mark a new endpoint. Or once again, I could hit the mark in right here, but look at these in and out points that are here right now. When I mark a new endpoint, boom, those go away, and I now have a new mark in. This is the part of the clip that I'm going to use for this next edit. Okay, so I hit I to mark it in. I'm going to play it.
But I wanted a Coke.
Okay, that's going to be your line, but I wanted a Coke.
Oh, but I wanted a Coke.
No. Hold on.
Okay, so I'm going to stop it right after she says I wanted a Coke. I'm just using my J, K, and L keys to go forward or backward. You could also, if you wanted to, grab your playhead and drag it like that till you get it right in the right spot. And then we're going to hit O to mark it out, or hit the mark out button right here. I'm going to play video into out.
But I wanted a Coke.
And then I'm going to simply click and drag that from the source monitor into the timeline to the end of this other clip. Snap it to the end of that other clip like a magnet and release the mouse. I'm going to drag my playhead back and check my work.
Lunch break.
Just a minute.
No, now.
Okay. What is this?
Green tea.
But I wanted a Coke.
Okay, so I'm going to do this one more time. And then I'm going to suggest we take a break so you guys can do your own at this. And then I'm going to talk about some other options in a moment here. But let's go back to Rory's medium shot. Once again, here, the in and out points that were here earlier. I'm just going to drag my playhead back to those. By the way, if I wanted to jump back to the in point or the out point, there's a go to in button right here. That'll jump to the in point. There's a go to out button right there that will jump to the out point. So I'm just going to play it.
But I wanted a Coke.
Right there. And I'm going to stop my playhead right after she says, but I wanted a Coke. I'm going to hit I to mark an in, L to play forward.
Soda's bad for you. Plus, you've been looking a little puffy lately, so this is better for you. Trust me.
Okay, and then I go, you know what? I'm not sure how I feel about her line reading in that. That's a 20C take 2. So maybe I go to 20C take 1. Drag my play back and look at her line reading here.
Now.
Okay.
What is this? Green tea.
But I wanted a Coke.
Soda's bad for you. Plus, you've been looking a little puffy lately. This is better for you. Trust me.
Okay, so I think that's a little better. So I'm going to use that one. So I'm going to find where Rory says, but I wanted a Coke.
What is this? Green tea.
But I wanted a Coke.
Okay, so I'm going to stop it right after that. I'm going to hit I to mark it in, L to play forward.
Soda's bad for you. Plus, you've been looking a little puffy lately. This is better for you. Trust me. Where's Hal?
He's out with John.
Okay, so where's Hal? That's where we want to end it.
Where's Hal?
Okay, so right about there, I'm going to hit O to mark and out. And then, of course, I'm going to double check it. I'm going to hit play video into out to see what I've marked.
Soda's bad for you. Plus, you've been looking a little puffy lately. This is better for you. Trust me. Where's Hal?
And then once again, I'm going to click in the middle of my source monitor, drag down to the timeline, drag to the end of this clip, drag it until I see it snap like a magnet to the end of the previous clip, release the mouse, drag my play it back, and I'm just going to play it. I'm going to check my work. I'm just going to hit the space bar.
Lunch break.
Just a minute.
No, now.
Okay. What is this?
Green tea.
But I wanted a Coke.
Soda's bad for you. Plus, you've been looking a little puffy lately. This is better for you. Trust me. Where's Hal?
Okay, so now we're starting to get a few clips into the timeline. It's actually getting hard to see all of my clips at once. So at the bottom of your timeline, there is this kind of scroll bar. And if we can click in the middle of the scroll bar and kind of drag to the left and the right to move up and down the timeline. But we can also grab these little tabs on either side of the scroll bar and drag in or out to zoom in and out on the played location. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so I have a little bit more space to work in my timeline. Okay, so take a few minutes and edit these first few clips into your timeline if you need to back up and play through that section again. But in a moment, I'm going to talk about using your keyboard and using the insert and overwrite functions rather than just dragging clips into the timeline. Okay, that's our basic drag and drop editing, but now I'm going to talk about using the insert and overwrite functions in just a moment. So once again, pause this if you need to, go back, and we'll start back up in just a second.